right, again.
There we go.
There we go.
Clear our energy.
Welcome to another episode of the Journey to Creativity, a place to discover, unblock, unravel, enjoy our creative energy, to discover our creative selves, our inner child, set them free. And I am here with a queen, a wonderful queen. She's an MC rapper. She is the creator and leader. Please pay attention, of Cypher Club YYC that I've been talking about so much here. She's here. She's a voice actress also, and she is an anthropologist. What a wonderful woman. She is fire. She is the bringer of life. She ignites the microphone from the moment her lyricism unfolds on a beat. Here she is, Zhes the Free.
Oh my gosh. This is the best podcast intro that has ever existed. Every artist in the world should come on this podcast purely to feel the light you just put in me.
Oh my
wow.
God.
I'm about to go do a whole album tonight with the energy from that. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so excited you're here. This is such an honor to me. Zhes the Free, the one that you inspired me so much. You set me free. I have to say, you're the one of the people that stood by me, supported me. You were like, go do it. And I went and tried because you ignited faith in me, in myself, from within. And that's huge.
I think that creativity doesn't ever really happen in a vacuum. So I think that doing it with people is something that like really helped me, and bringing other people into that, I think, is part of the work. If you're going to be a dope artist and a dope human being, I think you should be like, yo, you should come and play with this. You should come and try this because it's been really good for my soul and it might be good for your soul. And sometimes it sticks. So I'm glad that you said yes.
Yes, it sticks. It's so true. By the way, I want to say at this point that you can find Zhes the Free on her Instagram, Zhes the Free. It's with a Z, Z-H-E, the Free. You can find her music also on Spotify and SoundCloud. And by the way, today Zhes the Free just released a freshly squeezed single called Bounce.
I did.
Yes.
It came out today, November 12th, 2019.
So huge with Brian Moore, right?
Yes, and through the Infinite Elements crew. And it's funny, you're amazing, but this track has actually been in the force of creation for a year. So I think it's interesting if we're thinking about creativity that sometimes things take a long time to come to fruition, and that's just the way that they unfold. And I've learned that that's okay. You know, a part of it is like releasing because otherwise you can get tangled up in it has to be done this way and it has to be done now, and it just doesn't happen. And then it's like this forceful energy. And I think like the best creativity is with grace. And for me, that meant that this didn't come out for a year, and it's all good. You know, I feel like 2018, 2019, it's all okay. We're going to bounce either way.
We're going to bounce either way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I think that's a very feminine thing, right? Like allowing things to emerge, to grow in the creative womb, to like find its own way to flow with it, right?
And part of that is like, I think that the pressure to finish things on time is very interesting because we've overlapped that with creative expression and exploration, and they're kind of counterintuitive, that it's like you need to create under this time pressure and you have to efficiently produce within these limitations, and sometimes it just doesn't work that way. I think it was like 2018 was the year of creation. It was when I filmed the video, and 2019 is the year that it's gonna drop and the video will come out, and maybe that percolation of like gestation is exactly what it needed to be like at its, fullest potentials. You just trust.
Yeah. Wow.
How long did you think about like this podcast before it happened?
I thought of doing I wanted to do a podcast about astrology before this one.
Yeah.
And this one kind of like just emerged, but I tried many times with the astrology one. I had like, I think I would say like 8 attempts between in Spanish and in English. And I was never satisfied really with it. And I think it was like a testing time of like, what did I want to say really? Was it about astrology? What was it really about? And as soon as I started, like this was born in between me appearing for the first time in Cypher Club.
Yeah.
And coming back earlier this year.
Dope.
And I think it was a huge part of that for me to begin this. Cypher Club was like a huge part of it, as in terms of like the spark that was like, oh my God, there's so much going on here in this spontaneous creativity that's happening in the moment, flowing, and like in the group, in the like communal life that generates there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think like being witness to creativity and for each other, like building it in community is where magic of creativity happens to me, because there is a certain magic when I'm like freestyling alone in my car driving and I'm in that zone. That's its own magic. But to have that witnessed by people and experienced by people, it's like the difference of, having a fire with one piece of wood compared to all of these things, and the way that it can grow and build. The heat expands, you feel it differently. And I think like that group energy is what gets in people's bones, That's why hip hop is so live, because it's always like about the crowd and the energy. And that's what I think is like so infectious when people experience it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your like first experience with hip hop or with music or in terms of art? Like, because you started with film, right? Or was it writing? What was your first love like in terms of?
That's such a good question. I think that creative expression and play have always been like a very intricate and like deep part of my life, like as in intricate that they've been everywhere, because my parents are both very artistic types and very eccentric. So our house was always like a house of art, for lack of a better way to say it. Do you know what I mean? There was like, we had this huge poster wall in our kitchen, and there was like just always art and plants everywhere, same as my house is now. And my dad was always playing music, and like Bob Marley was always playing, and records. And then, so it was like a thing that was accepted as also like a way to be sustainable, because my mom would make these, pasta angels. Literally, they were out of pasta and hot glue guns. They had little walnut heads, and then my dad would spray paint them in the backyard, and she would paint these little faces on them and like add glitter and hair and sell them at markets. And that was like a big part of our income, because I was raised like we were very poor, and that was like a big part of our income in the winter, was my mom selling these pasta angels at like Christmas markets and stuff as ornaments. So I think creativity for me was not only something that was everywhere and like joyful and a part of the house, but it was also like, this is how you make livelihood. This is how we like are existing in the world, is like through creative things. So I think like writing and music was always there, and like playing as well was a big part of it. There was a lot of like, I think like joy and navigating like celebration through creating, that type of thing. So that I think lends itself very well to me to things like cypher and rap and writing, and like capturing stories, because I think that stories are very joyful, and across a lot of cultures, storytelling is like the way that people come together, the way that people learn, the way that people develop identity. And that's to me what like lyricism can be, right? Is that same type of storytelling. And film crosses that same border. So I just kind of kept them both, the parallels of storytelling, just different forms.
Yeah. And you overlap that as well with like a process of healing, right? Why don't you tell us about how, I know you've told this story many times, but how did Cypher Club happen? Like, what happened? How did you think about it? Was it spontaneous? Was it something you thought about for a while?
I think that all creativity, same as you speaking about the podcast, there are seeds that like kind of get dropped along other pathways. Right. And then sometimes you like loop back, or something just happens and you suddenly notice this little plant, and it's like, oh, wow, this is something that I should like water and pay attention to, or this is something that I'm really curious about. And I think Cypher formed because I needed it more than me forming it. So I really put my hands up with those types of things I really trust that there's more than us going on in the world, and it's all a lot bigger. But I think that it was like a desperation point. And I think a lot of art comes out of desperation. Like you look at some like really famous painters, or you hear stories of people that were, you know, writing plays or doing expression like back before that was something that was maybe more respected or understood. And a lot of those people were in agony. And I find that there should always be joy in creativity, because that I think is like the best emotion. I want to make people feel joy and feel fun and gratitude and those types of things of being safe and loved and celebration. But I also think that pain and agony produce a state of existing that gives us a freedom to do things, because we're a bit like, I have nothing else and I have to do something to change the space that I'm in right now. And so, yeah, to be real, I was like in a space of heartbreak, and I was really struggling like with my mental well-being and my physical well-being. And I just was like, I gotta rap with people around me. For some reason, that was like the thing that I was like, this will heal my heart and my self-worth, and like maybe help me sleep at night and like get my mind right. And it did. And I think it's because the people who came were people that I've like been with for quite a while. So we knew each other well, you know, like good artists, good community members, good DJs, good producers, good rappers. It was a very small crew at the start, and we were just like always really real with each other. And the dope thing about things that are started from like authentic places, which we're often in when we're in pain, is that people like can feel that vibe and they just can connect to it, because I think humans are looking for that type of connection. So I think it's like vulnerability sometimes produces real creative product that is so unique that it just catches, you know. And that happens everywhere. Like people will start a company, right, or they'll start making clothes, or they'll start like doing a type of music, and it's just like so authentic to them that like no one can deny it, and people then pay attention and follow it. It's very like a simple recipe, but it has to have that like authentic seed that you can't really like, you can't fake, you can't pull from somebody else's ideas. It has to be your own, you know. You'll be the best person at this creative podcast because it's like so you know.
Right. It springs from your experiences, from, like you said, that was so beautiful what you said, like how it's like these little seeds that have been like spread around you in your path, where you've been going here, going there, not really sure of where, what you're doing or why, or just following like that little sign, like that small golden thread that is like giving you a certain sense of direction, and suddenly you find yourself with, oh, this is something, and a year passed or 2 years passed. Like how long has it been of Cypher Club now?
This is coming into like the third, like we've had 3 summers, I guess you could say, kind of coming into that, I guess, because it was like, or maybe 2. It's all blurring. 2, I think, coming into the 3rd year now. Yeah, so we're 2 and into the 3rd. And that's the really neat thing, is like you are curious about this thing and you pay attention to it. And when other people start to come, suddenly it's like the garden has everybody's like different pieces and shrubs, and the flowers are growing, and some people water this week and some people are doing this, and one guy has fertilizer, and you're just like, wow, this is so amazing. Those are the coolest things of like creativity, when people like partake in what you've created, but they also own it and make it their own. I think that's how we really empower people. That's why I think creativity needs to like happen more in communities and things with youth, and like initiatives where people can like be a part of it and learn through it, and also like own it and carry it with their own lives and be leaders, and those types of things that can not just be held by one person, but they transcend. There's no real boundary of like, I have access to this, I have ownership of this. It's like, oh no, this is everybody's. We all are contributing to this space, and we all get to take it with us and have our own life with it, kind of.
Right. Cyber Club has thrown like little seeds and flowers over to this podcast, because right, so many people from Cypher that I brought here to talk to me, right, and they talked about like Bivita, Esteban Sound, MC Good Medicine. They've all come here so far, and more are to come, and they've all shared how the Cypher Club experience has like changed their lives in different ways, like, and it's always been like such a magnifying experience of what you really are. But since you get that, right, that's the feeling I get. It's like, since you get that genuine love and support, it's that fertilizer, right? It catalyzes it, and the person just becomes confident. You become confident. You believe that you can do it, and that's all. Like it was already there. It just needed like a little bit of sunlight, right?
Yeah, creativity heals a lot of the pain that humans carry, and I think that's why it's sad that we come to Earth with such a natural ability and a natural draw to being creative in whatever form, and somewhere I think through the school system and different institutions, we lose that. And I think it's like making us sick, like adults need to play too. And so that's what I envision that Cypher like keeps maintaining for people, is like, this is how you reconnect with this part of you that has always known you're worthy and you're able to express, and whatever you do is dope. You can't do it right or wrong. You don't really see kids like judging each other's crayon pictures. They just are doing their own thing, And so if we can like almost uncondition ourselves from all that fear, then we like, that's free, that's what I like. That's why I love that as part of my name and part of like everything I try to like remind myself to do and encourage people around me to do, is like, yo, this living thing, because we're so lucky where we live in the world, it should feel good. And part of that is that it should like feel free. We should feel like less restricted, and the world is so restricting.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. What do you see? You're a woman on a mission.
You are lovely. I don't know about the mission.
I see that you connect to something. Like you have like this, for example, you talk about freedom, you talk about the community, right? Youth, like connecting to having fun, connecting to that creativity, that expression, because it's healthy. So do you see yourself do you see Cypher as part of like your plan somehow, like that deep, purposeful plan that you have, that you feel in your life? Like, how do you see Cypher in the future? Like now you're in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, Saskatoon. Yeah, I do that too. Saskatchewan, Saskatoon. Yeah, it's all a blur. I think that it's like a continuous thing that's beyond me. That's also a really important part of creative initiatives, is you can't like squeeze them too tight. It's that idea that like, if it's going to really keep like evolving, you have to be trusting that if it's built on foundations and values that are solid and meaningful, those things will not waver. Humans are funny because we like to like tamper sometimes, or we like the idea of like, oh, could there be an issue here? Could we create drama? And I feel like I've just always been very clean of all that with Cypher. I'm just like, nah, I'm just not, I can't even hear you about it. Like, it's just like, it's with such pure intentions and people feel that energy, and I just have to keep focusing on that. And you encourage the community members to rise, and you hold people accountable. And that's why we have guidelines about, like, you can say what you want in the space. It's free. Rap is a very like free, open thing. Singing, like production, music, it should be, you follow whatever is kind of pulling you, but we also hold people accountable. So if you're racist, homophobic, sexist, if you say things, we'll call you on that. So I think it's like, you sometimes don't know the importance of something when you start it, but what I see for Cypher and where it will grow to in the future is, it's like, I think something like that should exist in all environments. You know what I mean? I wish I could go to like every rural environment, especially because I grew up in small town Alberta, and I wish that there would have been something that I could have connected to and known that that was an option for me, because I think rural places, they're limited in the types of music or beliefs or, just exposure to things. But I also think in cities, places like Cypher are necessary because there's so many people and there's so many lonely people, and we're all around each other all the time and no one's connecting. And I think Cypher is like a very connecting thing. We meet, people share, people are vulnerable, a lot of eye contact, a lot of emotion, a lot of feeling, and people know each other there. Like, I have homies from Cypher who you go to Cypher for a couple months together, and it's like, you know each other at a deep level. You know each other's sometimes secrets that other people aren't aware of. You know their truths, maybe more than some members of their family. You respect them through the hardships that they kind of overcome. And so I would love to see it in like every province, like kind of as a building in different cities. That's why I'm trusting that I left YYC on this academic journey to then go to Saskatchewan. So hopefully it can grow there. And I think there should be things like, because I think I'm an academic and I have that realm too, I think that we should have like conferences for things like hip hop. I think we should have like gatherings where we have experts talking to people who are up and coming. We have panelists speaking about whether they're like doing an entrepreneurship piece of it or how they're moving it, how they're maybe, you know, turning it into a way to get abundance in their life, like actual hacks of music and the reality of the industry. Like, I think that we should take creativity and make it something that's more and more respected. And sometimes you have to do that for yourself because the world isn't really set up that way. It's starting to shift, but I think I'm really done with this like narrative of the poor starving artist. I'm like, just no, like we, no. This is so uncalled for and unnecessary in our world now. We can be abundant artists. We can be, yeah. So I think it's like somehow bridging those two worlds would be dope.
I think you're so right. I don't agree with the starving artist idea either. No. I'm just going to take a little.
Perfect.
Yay. Yes. Yes. So part of what you see going further in your mission and what you're doing, whatever that is, even if it's not like clearly defined, there is like something, right? And you're talking about it right now. So part of it is also making or helping artists, especially in the community of hip hop, to like be able to make a living, right? To be able to take this more to the next level and not worry about having this double life or what do you think about that? Is that
Yeah, I think that's why it's interesting because it's sometimes like a barrier that maybe I experience, but I've also learned that you just have to shake off what other people maybe will sometimes put on you if it doesn't feel right. So for me, I've been able to pay a lot of my way through school and do things that I want to be able to do through music, but maybe not in the way that people always imagine. A lot of times people will be like, I'm a rapper, and they're really attached to that identity, and that means one thing. That means a certain type of music videos and a certain type of hype and a certain type of genre. Whereas I like the idea, and I always am talking to my youth or homies about the idea that you can make a very like abundant living through music, but it might be doing things like advertising or marketing or teaching is a big part of my stuff, workshops and connecting in that type of way with people, like sharing your talents, bringing other people in. And I think sometimes we get limited that if I'm going to do this, I have to do this way. That's why my education is important to me. I'm the first person in my family to kind of pursue education, and I really value that opportunity. And I think that there's no reason that rappers and artists can't also be academics, because that's the way that you get yourself into those pedestals and rooms and institutional places to try and affect change. And that also then connects you to sometimes different forms of abundance that aren't accessible otherwise. And I'm like, if you're going to help other people and that's something that works for you, if it doesn't work for everybody, it's all chilling, you know, but for me, it's been working. So I want to keep going that way and learning more so that I maybe have this accreditation that helps me then to be able to like feed those around me and bring people in and create initiatives. And then you pass those to good humans that you value, you know, like it's like if you have a workshop opportunity and you can bring someone with you, you find leaders in your community and you be like, yo, come do this, right? Or if you ever have access to funds, you pay people to do things because it's very important to share that. But I think it's like that idea that you can make your creative life your income, but you got to be open about what that might look like, and it might be different than your maybe one set path, and that's okay. You know, it might grow you to do the other things.
It's being creative in that sense as well.
Gotta be creative.
Gotta be creative in every aspect of life.
Yeah. But it's like when it moves to the forefront, that's a real release. I think you've moved a lot of creative things, I think, to your forefront of your life. And I think you seem like settled in that. There's like a nice place that feels like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you
that's so interesting that you say that. Because I don't feel so settled. Like now I'm like, okay, I'm not so afraid of saying like, yeah, I sing, or especially the podcast, since it's something that is like it has a shape. I think it's more like, yeah, I have a podcast. You can go listen to it. Go listen to it. But I don't have music that I can say like, go listen to me sing here, right? So it kind of like, it's funny because I haven't owned this like part of my identity even though that's what this journey has been all about for me. It's like realizing that it actually has been there all my life. I've just been ignoring it because I've been trying to be someone I'm not, to fit in, right? To like succeed in life, because we all want to succeed in life. But I thought I had to follow only the academic path, right? That I didn't have another choice because that's what I learned back at home.
Right.
So it's cool to see here in this city how many artists are like actively doing their thing, doing their craft, and they also have a job here, and they might be also entrepreneurs or they're in school. It's like this multi-life. You actually can create it, you can have it, and it's okay. Like it's part maybe of the process. Maybe you'll narrow down further down the road, like I did. I dropped out astrology down the path. I kind of like got away from painting as well, and like kind of narrowed down my path to what I actually am passionate about. But I feel like since we're young, like we are free and allowed to try whatever it is in different ways, different paths, as long as it's rooted in what really moves you, right?
And I think that we all have like chapters, like life shifts, like no one thing I think fits forever. That's the beauty of being a human. We're so dynamic and we hopefully grow. I pray I'm like getting better at this life thing as I go through it. And so like the thing that you maybe needed relief at one point in your life will shift, and the thing that you're like really drawn to will shift. And I think that's like a cool part of it. That's why I like encouraging people to say like, just be an artist, you know, just be an artist, because that gives you the freedom to move in lots of different ways. And sometimes I think our, I don't know, world can be like, okay, well, you're allowed to be this type of artist, but if you go over here and try and do this now, no, you're not allowed because we've pegged you as this. And I'm like, just keep it open, you know, because then you can move in all of those ways, and they'll feed into each other. You know, sometimes you paint and then you create an amazing song from it. And like, I just think the genres are very like, they're way more fluid, you know, or you look at something beautiful and then that inspires you to write about maybe the feeling that you have from that. So it all like links, I think.
It all does.
Yeah.
Or you're cooking and you think of a song,
Yes.
rhyme, or you're going for a walk and these ideas come to you. Yeah, it's just that right brain. Yeah, the right brain activity that we tap into when being creative, right?
And I'm always like, when people aren't creative or not, like if they've maybe decided that's not something in their life, I'm always like, wow, what do you do? Like, what's your life about then? How do you like move in the world? Because for me, if I wasn't doing creative things, I'd feel like I would be almost sick, you know? So I'm always curious. I'm like, wow, what's life like for you if you're not doing creativity as like an outlet? What's your outlet? And it's kind of cool to like have those conversations too, right?
You really are like that. You carry that message, like creativity is so necessary to have a full life.
For me, it is. Yeah. So it's like, I hope that people who also need that find it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think everyone is and has it and just has to like dig a little bit, and because it can be expressed in so many ways, and school has like narrowed down our minds a little bit?
Yeah, I think anybody who wants to will, you know, and who wants to can. But I think that, yeah, genuinely humans are so curious because we're all different levels. So to me, it might feel like I need this to live and breathe, but somebody else genuinely like maybe doesn't need it. And I also love my homies that are like, I'll never do this, but I love coming to your shows. And like, that's my job, is to support other people making art. And we're so lucky that the world also has those people, right?
Exactly.
Because if we were all trying to perform all the time and be on the mic all the time, it would be excessive. So we need all humans.
True.
Yeah.
True. And we exercise our creativity in different ways also, right? It's like all about what moves you and what makes you passionate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. The shifts.
I want to ask you about like challenges that you've had as an artist, like in terms of your career, or you finding your voice, or you doing whatever, everything that you've done as an artist. Like what have been like challenges, things that have,
Good question. Challenges are consistent, and I think most of them, I'm very privileged and lucky that things like I like the body I was born in, you know what I mean? And I happen to be attracted to the gender I'm supposed to be attracted to. Those type of things are not a challenge for me. So sometimes I think it's like everyone's battle is valid, but some people's are a lot more simple. Other people are really navigating and really brave every day just for showing up. But I think like creatively, you have to fight to hold space as a woman in a male dominated world, especially a field like hip hop. And I think I learned a lot from doing voiceovers because I was always voicing boy characters. And that was a big struggle for me, like in junior high and high school. And I kind of knew that battleground already of people being like, whoa, you're not allowed to do this because you're a girl. These things do not fit. And you will be made known that this is like not right. And I pushed through that, but not with ease. There was a time where I really didn't want to do voicing anymore and I was super ashamed of it. I didn't want people to find out. I was confused about it's funny how kids can get in your brain. It was like suddenly the chanting of like, Zoe wants to be a boy, Zoe wants a penis, blah, 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 blah. Nobody knows anything at that age of life. But it was like in my head of like, oh, am I confused? What is this? What is important to me? I just see these ways that I'm expressing myself or these voices I find these characters are a part of my identity of expression and like joy. I like doing this. What is that? Why is this an issue for people? And I feel like with rap and hip hop, it's kind of the same. I often will like, just the same type of comments that are all too familiar for any like female DJ or women that are in like male dominated spaces of like, oh, you're really good at this for a girl, or, oh, I was really impressed, or, oh, you really surprised me, or you're like one of the best like femcs. And it's like, can you just remove the word like femc from that statement? Right. Or can you just say you rap dope? Like, why is that so hard for people to do? But I think it's that idea of like, you don't really belong in this space. So we always got to kind of remind you of that. Even if we're like big ups, like we're also going to like real low key just remind you that we're not sure about keeping you here. Right. But I think that like breathes fire into what I do sometimes, because you can also really use those things, challenges, obstacles, to like push yourself and also shock people, I think, in a way that helps them remember you. And I always think things should come from like a genuine place. But often if I'm like in a battle rap situation or like in a kind of hard like performance stage environment, I like to be like grimy and nasty and like gritty. And like, I like that part of me is within me always. Totally. And so if you say those things, people are like, whoa, like, if I'm like, suck my dick as a girl, people like lose it. But it's like, I'm going to do these things because they kind of create like an openness and break maybe some walls that people think have to remain there. And it actually loosens everybody up. Like people lose their minds if a woman's like, suck my dick, because it's so like strange and it shouldn't be. It's just like a statement of whatever, of power. It's like, It's like you can be a female with big dick energy. Do you know what I mean? And you can be a nurturing, feminine, like gentle man. And why does it matter? Just do those things.
So true.
So it's like those challenges I've kind of learned, like you always take them in a bit too much, and then you learn to like filter them out. And sooner or later you're like, I just don't care anymore. I have to just be this way. Here we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why we love you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's crazy. Because I was going to ask you next, like what have been your challenges as a woman, right? Because I imagine that those things would be connected. So what would you tell young women or youth that are facing these issues about, gender and like feeling, because I am a big believer, I think this is just the truth. I don't think it's my opinion. We all have both feminine and masculine energies, and we just have like different bodies, but our energy is like the fact that you want to go and say, suck my dick is, I can understand that, right? Because it's the energy of it more than the literal suck my dick. Obviously I don't have one, so you can't.
Yes. But I'm expressing this energy. Yeah.
Right. So, and there's also the feminine, and we all have both. Everyone has both, and we just have like them in different levels, and it's okay to have them both, right?
I think that's healthy. That's a healthy human, is someone who has both and acknowledges that they're both existing.
Acknowledge them, yeah. And so what would be like your kind of an advice for young women that are coming up as artists or that just as women from your... perspective?
It's a very delicate balance because I don't like feeding into that rhetoric of be vigilant and
Right.
be aware, and at the same time I've had enough experiences in my life to know that that is also a reality. So I think that it's like hold yourself to a standard of strength and keep people around you who empower you to be strong in that way. And that means if you're into dating men, then you have men around you who support your own strength, and you have strong sisterhood around you, and that those women are supporting you as a strong woman. And I think it's like the people that you have, like romantically, friendships, all of those things that you're supporting people's strength. And strength doesn't always mean that you're hard. I think strength more means that you are moving in a way that makes you feel like you have power over the space that you're in, that you have control over your body and the things that you're experiencing physically, and that you have a voice that you're able to use, and that people will listen to you. And so I think, like, for young women especially, it's like your voice and your body and the space that you hold are very important things to cultivate. And so you sometimes have to practice those things. You have to practice using your voice and like being loud and expressive and doing it with integrity. And you have to practice taking up space, like standing and feeling like I'm here and I deserve to hold this space. I don't have to be smaller. I don't have to move. I don't have to shift. I'm allowed to be in this space. And then I think it's also like about like knowing that the way that you carry yourself and move should also have like strength in it. And I think, I don't know, it's one of the big questions of humans. Like, that's why I love anthropology, is trying to figure out some of these big questions. But I think you feel strength in yourself when you feel connected to a sense of who you are. That's why it's like, you can get that in a lot of different ways. Like, some people, it's like a cultural connection to like their history that gives them that sense of identity. Some people, it's like a love from their family or friends that gives them that sense of identity. Some people build it on their own. You know, there's a lot of people who are like very independent in the world, and like they're struggling and learning about themselves in their own right. And I have huge respect for that. But it's like, knowing that you have strength and that you have agency and that you deserve to have choice in the things you're saying, doing, responding to, is so simple and so massive. I don't know, like, what do you think? Like,
That's
you also,
huge.
you know, like,
No,
you're
I
also
love.
a woman coming into strength and learning,
Yes.
like, from those spaces that, like, there are realities of the world that we can't deny, you know? And so it's not like putting those aside, but it's also like saying, okay, so what do we do with this, you know? And how
Right.
do I move in these spaces in a way that's like safe, and that I have respect with me, and that I'm helping other people feel safe? Because when I'm strong, I'm a hell of a lot better ally than when I'm, you know what I mean? Kind of like battling with my own stuff. I'm a lot better able to support you when I feel strong and worthy. And if we foster that more, it all ripples. Everything ripples.
It ripples.
Yeah.
I think especially women, like, we give each other a lot of strength. Like, we give each other a lot of support and know, like, I got you. You're not alone,
Yeah.
and you are worthy, and you're supported, and you're loved. You've told me, even like in message, those things. I remember a couple of times you were like, you're loved and supported, and just that, I was like, oh my God, thank you so much. I actually needed to hear that.
Yeah.
And so I do agree, like, that in terms of what to do with these things that happen to us as women, you know, and like how to bring the best out of the situation. I really believe it comes as an inspiration for me to empower other women. Like it and how to be, and it's not like that same power idea of like the masculine perspective of power. It's like a different power, just as you were describing, is that sense of self-worth. I am full in myself. I am worthy as I am. I'm complete. And this space that I occupy, the way you put it was so beautiful. I really want to hear that again. But like how to draw those boundaries and be like calm, serene and full of your own worth, I think, right? Because then you even can intimidate and repel like those energies that are just not in tune with you anymore, right?
Yeah. It's part of like building your I think fortress, you know, it's like that. I love the idea of like, none of the other brutality of it, but like having like a castle, you know what I mean? Like, and that idea of people like being royal, because to me, when I see that, it's not about like ruling over anyone else. Being royal is just the way that you carry yourself and the things that you feel you deserve in your life, from being able to wear things that make you feel good to speaking to other people with like intentionality and kindness that like draws them up as well. To me, those are things royal people do. They have the power to like make everybody's, you know, experience better because of how they feel and carry themselves. So that idea of like, how do you take care of your castle? And it's all types of different like avenues that lead into that. And then you need to do those things. You need to learn what you need to do and do it.
Right. Words from a true queen here. No, for real. I think that I think that that's very feminine. Like, you're speaking from a very feminine power point of view. Like, what do you see as what do you think are the feminine energy powers? What the feminine brings? Not as like what a woman brings, but what in anybody, what is that feminine energy, and what is its potential? Like, how you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's interesting because I think that I have kind of actually bounced around like having more of like a masculine energy in the way that I've carried myself in the world. But I think that it's interesting how I've like kind of like supplemented that with like, I'll dress quite feminine. Like, I like a lot of jewelry. I like shiny things. I like to like, you know, feel good for me, and what makes me like feel beautiful is often like feminine things. But I think that's because I often like move or stand or speak in a way that is like quite masculine, and like, yo, I'm here and I'm holding space and I deserve this. And it's all love. I think that to me, the power of the feminine that I have like learned to utilize is that it's being able to like call people on things, whether it's reining people in like a cipher, or calling people on maybe something ignorant that they've said, or helping somebody, doing those things with like this strength and conviction that I think a lot of men are raised to have, and a lot of women are maybe discouraged to have as young girls. We're not really encouraged to like be bold and have real conviction and real confidence in the things that we say. And luckily my parents really like brought that as like a forefront in the way that I was raised. And so the power of the feminine in that is that you do it with love. Like I don't know, I'm trying to think of like a recent example. So I was on campus, and there was this truck that pulled up, and these guys threw McDonald's garbage out of their window, and I lose my shit with those things. And I was like, okay, be calm, because I want to go full lion mode. But I was like, no, okay, how would a lioness deal with this? How do we bring in the feminine? And I just walked up like real graceful, real calm. And I picked up the garbage and stood up, and his window was open, and he was watching me. And like, I looked good that day. I looked, you know, I was feeling it.
Always look good.
And he was looking at me like, what is about to this? And I handed it back to him. He kind of put his hands out, and I was like, yo, man, I was like, you're a good dude. Like, you're a cute looking guy. You got this sweet truck. You have your homies in the back seat. Like, you have everything going for you. Like, you are such an example. There are a bunch of dudes here waiting for the bus, seeing you in your truck, that want to be in the place that you're in. And when you throw garbage out your truck, that's what you make them want to be like. And instead, you could get it out, put this in a garbage can, keep it with you, recycle this cup. Like, there's so many other things that you could use your, you know, like your things you got going for you to do in the world. Like, have you ever thought of that? And he looked at me and was like, shit. And I was like, yeah. And then he was like, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. And I was like, yeah, like, do better, man. Like, you can do so much better. Wow. And he was like, yeah, totally. And we had a real moment, and it was dope. And we like, you know, fist bumps, dabs after, and then I walked away, and it was very positive. And I've had to learn that, though, that's where the feminine power is, because there have been many times in my life where I've lost my shit, like I've picked up the cup and I've thrown it in the car and pop goes everywhere. And it's like, to me, that can be that type of the negative energy of that type of situation. But I feel like the feminine is moving with grace in the powerful actions that you take, and often moving with kindness in the powerful actions that you take. And that doesn't mean that you don't like reprimand people when they need to be, or call people out or hold people up. But you can do those things with love. And I think it's a lot more effective. I think if our institutions that are, I think, very masculine, like our judicial system and like penitentiary system, even the schooling system, like if those things were created to be a more nurturing, loving type of space, I think the world would be very different. I think we'd be seeing a lot of like more positive healing, like less reincarnation rates, those type of things would be different.
Wow. True wisdom. For real.
You
Yes.
are a
The
goddess.
power of the goddess of love.
Love. And it's actually way
Zoe.
easier, like we had a nice interaction. If I see that guy again, I think it will be a positive interaction.
For
Whereas
sure.
if I had blown up, I've learned, because I've done both. Like I'm not perfect and I don't know anything. And I just am trying to like try and level up. And it's like, but in the past, you can really salvage, or you can really, destroy a relationship, and then nobody learns anything. Whereas I feel like, or you can salvage a situation if you do it through love.
So real. And another very feminine power, I think, that you are always I don't want to say preaching, but like carrying the flag about is gratitude.
Yeah.
You installed in like the cipher sort of structure, the way it works, the fact that at the end we all have to say something that we're grateful for, right?
Yes.
And that's like part of the ritual of ciphers.
It
like
is.
At the end you say something that you're grateful for, and I feel like that's something very feminine. The appreciation of what is good, like what's the full part of the cup, right? What we do have, what is abundant right now, what am I grateful for? That I feel that seems to be on the feminine side. What do you think?
I think gratitude is just human, I think it's very human. And I think that it's also a very like natural part of like ritual and ceremony is gratitude. And I think it's what connects us to something outside of ourselves. And to me, I also think that gratitude is a very like huge part of hip hop. And I'm always curious that people focus on like maybe the violence or the darkness, or that's definitely like a real part of that world as well. But to me, a lot of the interviews with artists that I really respect, they'll usually be like, yo, big ups this person, or shout outs this person, or like that's also a very important part of the culture, is like that recognition of thanks and giving credit where credit is due, right? And knowing that no one does anything on their own. So I think like incorporating that into cipher is really important to me, because it's a reminder that like there's always something that we can use to get our perspective into a place of our vibration being better. Because when we stay like in negativity or darkness, that doesn't serve us. And so bringing it back to gratitude, and not discounting if you're in like a struggle, and not discounting if you're in pain, and if you are in those types of places, but also reminding yourself like, yo, this is something that I can cling to today. And maybe it's like that the sun came out that day. Maybe it's that you can go and get a cup of water. Like it's little things sometimes, but that also can have a lot of power to like bring us back just into like our bodies of like, oh yeah, there's more than this. And I think that that's maybe the nurturing part that we can all access, men, women, everybody. But I think that women have like historically and across many cultures been those types of like, that's our power, is our power of nurturing and our power of sisterhood. And women come together to nurture, to problem solve. We hold medicines. That's a very feminine thing. And so it crosses boundaries. And it's often easier, I feel like sometimes, if women invite people to do things like that. Everybody can, but I just think like women have a very neat way that we can move in the world. And I think we usually talk about like the ways that we're limited, but I've found like I can get away with magical things as I present them as a woman, because, and then sometimes people don't realize the impact of it till afterwards. And then they're like, oh, wow. And you're like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Zoe, that's so beautiful to hear you talk about
Queen
all
bee.
these. I want to know, just so we're kind of like almost wrapping up, not yet. I have a few more questions for you, but I feel like we have gone through almost everything that I really wanted
That's dope.
to talk about with you. But I want to ask you this question.
Yes.
What makes your heart bounce?
Oh, that's so great. Man, that's a line from my new track that we very brilliantly pulled
Yes,
out. So it's like, feel it, make your heart bounce. And I think that for me is when you're doing something that you know you're good at and you're helping other people get to the same level of high that you're feeling while doing it. And I don't know, like that for me is like why performing is such like a gift for me to be able to experience as an artist. And that's like the most reciprocal thing you can do is like when you're on stage, you're sharing with the crowd and you're bringing them into the good that you feel. Because I think like people don't acknowledge enough, like when I go to a show, for me as an artist, it's like I'm getting the best hit of something. And it is very important for me to like be healthy in my life to get whatever that is, I feel like when I'm on stage. So it's like, feel it, make your heart bounce is to me like that total high that is actually completely free of substance. It's all energy. It's all like vibration. And it's like sharing that with somebody else, you know, when it's like the heartbeats in the room are all aligning. And that's like what a beat is, you know, it's like, I feel like when everybody hits the beat and you get there in any like cypher or dope show, people have their hands up, everybody's in it. It's like, to me, it's like all your hearts are with it at the same space. And those are so alive moments, like alive moments. And I love them. Yeah.
You feel alive.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Z. This has been amazing to have you here. And well, I was planning to ask you what you see yourself doing in the next few years, like a final question. I don't know if you feel like answering that, like a Zoe
projection.
Forecast projection.
You're the astrology queen. You should tell me what these planets are doing with me. I'm very surrender. I'm very like,
Nice.
I feel like I've learned that you should always like grind hard and you should know what you love and what's important to you and work hard. But I think a lot of life is trust and saying yes to things when it's sometimes very maybe not what you imagine you would be doing, but it's just happening. You know, and you're like, okay, then this is just happening. I'm just, you know, like I think even with like the path of your life in recent years, you maybe couldn't have planned that if someone had asked you 2 years ago, how's this going to go? And suddenly you're here, you know, it's like it happened, but you just kept kind of being like, well, this makes sense and this feels good. And I think there's also like a line of you should take into consideration what other people tell you who you trust, but ultimately your intuition is the guide for your life because your life is your own, you know? And so you really do have to like live it for yourself. And the people who love you will always support you in that. Sometimes they might take a little while to come around and understand why you're doing what you do, but I think that they really will come around. And so you just have to like sometimes get them to bear with you as well when you're like, I also have no idea what's happening. I'm just trying to like be in this journey and like be good to people along the way, be good to living things along the way and respect yourself. And then things kind of have a way of revealing. That's the magic.
Trusting, flowing.
Trusting and flowing.
I love it.
Me too.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I love this. I love this episode. It's gonna be one of my golden favorites for sure. And such a pleasure to have you.
This is dope. I think conversations about creativity and outlets and how people come to where they are conversations that people should have more. Like I'm always like, why do we talk about the weather and like these topics so much when we could be talking about things like creativity? So I think it's like really dope that you've made this podcast a thing because maybe it inspires those type of conversations to happen more commonly with people. And what a great way to shift the world if is we were speaking at the water cooler about like, what did you do that made your soul come alive this weekend? Did you make anything last night instead of like, what did you watch last night?
Right.
Those type of shifts I think are like, they're more significant than you realize. You're rippling as well.
Hey, we're both rippling.
Right?
All right, so we'll be wrapping up. Just remember to find Zoe in her Instagram, Zee the Free. I'll write that down. On her Spotify and SoundCloud, you can find her tracks and her single Bounce just released.
Woo!
Make
Bounce,
your
y'all.
bounce.
Make your hearts bounce. Get creative and make your hearts bounce.
Get creative and make your hearts bounce, and listen to the track and share it because it's so dope. I loved it.
Thank you.
All right.
Be well.
Be well. Have fun. Okay, check. Mic check.
What's up?
What is up?
B and Z.
And we have sound effects too. Oh my god. Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Journey to Creativity podcast. You can find out more about the podcast on our Instagram and Facebook page. Just look up The Journey to Creativity. If you find this podcast helpful or you like it, please leave some stars for us if you listen on Apple. You can also leave a review or comment below the episodes on the podcast page or on YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, for your support, for your comments. Stay tuned for more conversations about the magic of creativity. Bless up. Much love to you all.